What up? Welcome back. You know who it is. It's lower control arm, part 3. Let's try not to drag this out for 47 years longer. I'm just kidding. So today's been my lucky day. First thing first, had a trip to Restoration World with my buddy Ryan. Thank you, Ryan. Stopped at Pepe's, got a mangonada. Come home working on my lower control arm, and guess what I've discovered? Speedway, or 7-Eleven, depending on where you're from, has slushy horchatas. It's like my lucky day or something. So I'll show you what I'm working on. Here we go. All right, we've all heard the saying, God bless this mess. Well, here you go. It's a damn mess trying to do this stuff, especially in an area so small, but I'm getting it done. So today's project, I've already done this one. As you can see, I needed to reinforce the backside of this arm. I needed to do some finish welding, and I wanted to make sure I got through this portion of it before I started on that guy down there, because that one still needs the backside done. Let's see if I can flip this around without burning myself, because it's still piping hot. You get the idea. Weld the plate in. I still got some areas I need to weld, but being the cross shaft is in the way. This guy right here makes it a little tough. Still undecided about here and here, what I'm gonna do. I kind of sort of just half-assed mocked it up on the frame, and I don't know if those are gonna hit or not on the under portion of the belly over there. So these guys right now are going to remain unwelded, okay? And hopefully by the end of this video here, I'll have that part figured out. But for now, gonna do the other side, other arm, that plate, and then I'm gonna cut the steel sleeve, okay? So I'm going a 2.5 inch on the sleeve. Seems like that's a pretty solid measurement. And then, you know, it's pretty common on these arms to leave like a lip right here. So I'll probably leave a little bit of a lip, just, you know, should the spring decide that it wants to evacuate the building at any moment. At least it will have something to help hold it in so people can get the hell out of the way. But that's the plan for now. So here we go. All right, so what you just saw was I took my piece of metal that I made from my template. Pretty self-explanatory. We've seen that a few times. Take note though of these little check marks, whatever you want to call them. That's places within the arm that it actually flexes. That's where the bends are going to start. So that's kind of like a reference or witness marks that you put on your actual metal piece when you go to bend this thing. And in that time lapse, hopefully it came out good. All I did was use the end of the frame jig here, the rotisserie portion. It's got this particular engine stand has a slightly little opening about that big to slide plates in like this. And basically I just used it as a metal brake. I marked out my marks, which are kind of hard to see now, and just bent on those marks a little bit at a time to ultimately end up getting the shape that I need, which fits the arm that I have here. So pretty straightforward, guys. It's pretty pliable, you know what I'm saying? It's 3/16, but you can bend it. And you know, of course you can get it close, tack it on, get some heat in it. You know, you can whack it into shape with a hammer if you have to, pulling it with some pliers, whatever you gotta do, but it's not that bad, okay? This is actually one of the easier parts of this whole entire thing that I've done. It's not that bad. So now it's time tacking on and get ready to fully weld that bad boy on there. All right, so the end result of all that would be getting that inside plate tacked in, fitted up, bent up. You get the idea. Pretty self-explanatory. Someone use a hammer. Hammer's your friend. The point is, you don't want to put hammered dents in the middle of your piece. Put it, right on the edge. That way, if you need to grind it out or weld over, you'll be okay. So, pretty straightforward. Gonna do some welding, get that welded in there. So here we go. All right, so last time lapse, you saw me welding those back pieces up. I just went ahead and skipped a little bit and cut the sleeves for the spring pocket material. Pretty straightforward there, guys. That would be those two right there, and ladies. I gave myself room to weld that joint completely up, and then should I decide to grind them down or something at some point, I can. They're 2.5 inch tall. Okay, and that's you can see that front little lip there that I was talking about in one of the earlier segments. Pretty straightforward, nothing super crazy, nothing super fancy here. First time I've ever made a set of these in my life. They're on a scale of 1 to 10. Let's call it a 7. I mean, they weren't quite as complicated technically as the uppers were. Just because, the measurements are pretty critical there because you're cutting the A-arm basically in half. These, you're not really cutting anything except the lips off, so you're just reinforcing everything. Oh, well, I take it back. You're cutting out the spring pocket, and that carries the weight of the car, so you better be sure you know what the hell you're doing. But on a scale, 1 to 10, I would call this maybe a 7, 7.5, something like that. Not too terribly difficult. I'm glad that part's over, to be honest with you. This is, I never thought I'd make a 3-part video on how to do these, but it's a process, you know what I'm saying? So I'm glad that part's over. Okay, so what's coming next for the channel and for me with the project? I'll be 100% honest, I really don't know yet. I need to get these lowers bolted on. I need to start putting bushings in at some point. I need to get some paint to paint parts that I know after this initial mock-up stage here I'm not going to take apart again, so I'd like to get some of that out of the way. But most likely try to get the lowers bolted on, get some bushings in, put that rear axle together, slide those axles in, put the brakes on it, get the wheels on it, and try to get this thing on the ground. I need to get the motor and trans in this frame and put some weight on it and everything, see how everything checks out. So yeah, I think that's going to be in the next couple of videos. So nothing really too exciting, but it's all part of the process, you know what I mean? It's a necessary evil when it comes to doing these kinds of things, because you just want it to be done, right? Like right now, I just want it to be done. But I got to remind myself, have fun, take your time, do it right. That's the important thing. So thank you for watching. And now on to the speak on it. Here we go. All right, so today's speak on it, really simple, really quick. It's just the topic of experience. Ran into a buddy today at one of my favorite places in the world, Restoration World, and I was talking to him about the whole steps and process to go and get all this stuff done for this car. And it got me thinking about taking everything in, everything that everybody explains to you on how to do something. I don't care if it's welding, grinding, cutting, brazing, metal fabrication. It could be the most mundane thing. Listen to what people tell you, listen to what they have to say, because at some point they've paid the price for what knowledge they're giving you, either through hard-earned cash you know, or just experience of doing it themselves, going through the motions, going through the steps, trying to figure out what works and what doesn't, you know. And there's a lot that can help you in your journey with whatever it is you're working on, be it an Impala or, you know, you're building God knows what. Just somebody's paid the price for that knowledge, so listen to them. It doesn't mean you have to agree with everything they say. You know, I could have somebody tell me how to do something and I'm like, man, that just doesn't make any sense. There's gotta be an easier way. You know, that's cool. Everybody does that. But, you know, with talking to my buddy today and realizing that, you know, passing this information on from one guy to another, or in some cases, generation to a generation, some of this stuff's being lost. Because you got guys who I looked up to as a kid who are now, you know, in their 60s, 70s, 80s, some cases in their 90s. And it seems, just in my opinion, you know, you don't have to agree with this, but it seems like we have a generational gap on guys that can do this and do that, and guys that don't even know where to start. So the whole point of this is don't be afraid to ask questions, get advice. If you've seen me do something here and you go, okay, Billy at Gym City Welding did it this way, but I've seen this guy, and this guy do it their own different ways, take something from each one of us and make it work, and do the best you can. And you know, I always say this stuff isn't the gospel. Somebody had to figure this out, and my buddy today actually reminded me of that here recently, and it made me chuckle because I had forgotten about that. Somebody had to start doing this somewhere, sometime, somehow. And whether he did it right or wrong the very first time, this is where we are today. You know what I mean? And there's kind of a standard, a little bit, with some things. But patience, take your time, do it the best of your ability. And I talked about that in the last video with the, speak on it with the welding. Just do the best you can. And then at the end of the day, you know, you're gonna have a product that you're gonna be proud of, or in some cases, something that may not have turned out quite like you thought it would. And if that's the scenario, then don't be afraid to go and have somebody do something for you. That's okay too, you know. It keeps guys like me doing this, and it keeps the guys busy who, you know, have shops and do this stuff for a living. You know, that's a big deal. So I would never frown on anybody for, you know, seeking out help. So always ask, because there's always somebody that knows something more than you do. You know, once you stop learning, you stop growing. So that's my speak on it today. I hope it reaches somebody. I hope it means something to someone. Whatever you're working on, remember, it's a marathon, not a race. It's just a little bit at a time, and you'll get there towards the end. So that's my speak on it. Before we end the video, wanted to give a quick shout out and a reference for all of you who have 58 to 64s. You're on YouTube, look up Goozy Fabrication. If you haven't found him and his channel, you gotta look it up. It seems to be like he's become the kind of Impala guy here lately through his business. He features other cars from time to time, like Chargers, and he's had a few different ones on there. Forgive me, I can't remember all of them, but here lately it's been 62s, 63s, 64 Impalas. So he's doing like quarter panels, wheel wells, floor pans, some firewall work. The guy's good. He's really good, and he gives some incredible tips on how to do certain things when it comes to like rockers and you know, take your pick with these cars, because let's be honest, if you've bought a car like I have, it's going to need something. It's going to need a floor, it's going to need a quarter, it's going to need maybe all of that. And we're lucky to have a guy like Goozy's channel to have references to. So check him out, Goozy Fabrication, YouTube. Until next time, take care, and God bless, and we'll see you soon.